Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Anime Lounge podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Matt, alongside with my other co-host, Lantz. And today we have our special friend, Tyler, who joined us for the Yu Yu Hakusho episode.
Yeah, I'm back. Thanks for having me back.
Glad to have you back. So, as per our tradition, we always have an adult beverage of choice. My adult beverage of choice today is just going to be a Jack Daniel's single barrel, going pretty standard there, and then going to chase it down with the summer shandy.
Nice. I'm going to be similar in the sense that I too am going to be drinking a Jack Daniel's. Mine's a single barrel rye, and I will be chasing mine down with a summer shandy as well. What about you, Tyler?
I'll be just drinking a Cider Boys Strawberry Magic, just keeping it nice and simple.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure I remember you don't really drink too much hard liquor, right?
I drink hard liquor, but having to get up at 4 in the morning for work, can't mix the two too well.
Everyone can relate to that one.
Oh, yeah.
Lance, can you give us the synopsis for this episode?
All right, so today we will be covering seasons 1 through 3 of My Hero Academia. In My Hero, we follow our main character, Midoriya, who is later named Deku as his hero's name. He's born into a world where most people have superpowers that are called quirks, but he is amongst the minority who is born quirkless. One day, his high school friend is being attacked, and even though Midoriya is without a quirk, he still tries to save his friend. Earth's mightiest hero, All Might, sees this action and deems Midoriya to be his next successor. With this new power that he has been gifted, Midoriya enrolls into one of the top hero academies so that he can become a full-fledged hero. Through his time learning, Midoriya is faced with villains that he must take down, and we get to see a bunch of fun action come from there because I think a lot of these villains in this show are pretty freaking sweet.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot to talk about, both for the good guys and the bad guys.
Definitely.
And before we get any further, let's just jump into Lance's lessons. Lance's lessons today is going to be the Japanese phrase for do your best. That is ganbatte. Ganbatte is spelled Ganbatte. And this is the aggressive form to make sure that you're going to do your best. So you may hear this a lot in, all your regular Japanese subs. Ganbatte, do your best.
Of course, we all have our favorite heroes, and of course, we all have our favorite villains.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's a good segue to start this thing, because we usually talk about favorite characters in general.
Yep.
So let's just continue with that train. Matt, you got a favorite character in general?
So for our Instagram and Facebook followers, they know that I have a Bakugou figure.
Mm-hmm.
He's awesome, but I think I might go a little bit different. And no, you know what? I gotta go with Bakugou. It's at least now he is, as I've said previously, he's basically Vegeta in a younger version. And everything that I like about Vegeta, you see in Bakugou. The only difference is Bakugou is one of your top people,
mm-hmm.
and his rival, Izuku, is not. So it's just that badassness in Bakugou, and then in the manga, he swears all the time. It's hilarious. And it's great seeing him. We'll go more into some other reasons why I like him later as we're talking through everything, but he's definitely my favorite. Tyler, what about you? Who's your favorite?
I'd have to say my favorite character / hero is probably going to be Eraserhead.
Eraserhead, really?
Nice.
Eraserhead, just like his quirk in general is just so strong yet limited to what he can do, but just how he teaches and how he handles his students and just other things in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an all-around awesome character. And
oh, yeah.
It's just, also with his sash, it's just, what he can do is awesome.
Yeah, that stringy thing that he can control like that is pretty freaking sweet. I like when he activates his quirk, like, kind of gets like Super Saiyan hair going a little bit, and like it flashes away from him so you can see that he's using it.
Yep.
I just like how tired and like annoyed his voice is, but yet at the same time he's like heartfully concerned for his students. So it's a lot of good mixes.
I think that's like the one thing that I loved like when I realized like he was probably my favorite like character is when he just showed up to class in a sleeping bag, told him to figure it out, and passed out in class.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first handful of classes, he's always just tired in a sleeping bag, like, not really my problem, and falls asleep.
Yeah. You guys figure out who was going to be your class rep. I'm just going to take a nap real quick. Yeah, I liked him a lot.
Lance, what about you? Who's your favorite?
And I know I've said this when we covered the My Hero movies. It's pretty much a good tie between Shoto and Bakugou. I think overall, I want to choose Bakugou.
Okay.
Just because of his explosiveness,
Yep.
his speed patterns that he picks up, how quick he is to learn stuff. I like the concept that he can blast himself through air like that. His just agility in the air. I don't know. He's just so explosive and funny, and he's definitely an amazing character. But to give a quick little spin, let's throw Shoto into this. Half fire, half ice. Two amazing powers. I kind of think I like his ice half more, just because, in the same vein of explosiveness, as soon as he goes full out, he can blow up an entire stadium with just ice, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah, the fact that when they're in the stadium during the tournaments on their 1v1s, he literally just covers the entire stadium in ice like it was nothing within half a second.
Right.
It just exploded out of nowhere with it, and like it was nothing. It was easy, light work.
So OP.
Well, when they do in the first season, they're doing that training, the villain versus hero training, and he just freezes the entire building, and then just nonchalantly wins the challenge. It was so awesome. I will say he is pretty awesome. I like his character development a lot. One thing you can say about Bakugou is he's kind of, except for at the end of season 3, Bakugou is pretty much the same as far as attitude is concerned. The entire first 3 seasons.
Yeah, I can see that.
And with Shoto, you're seeing ups, downs. One thing I noticed is like there's a lot of kind of dark themes sprinkled throughout the series. Because, you got, like, child abuse from Endeavor that scarred Shoto emotionally. And then, his mom throws the hot tea on his face and gives him that actual scar on his face.
Right.
Yeah, it was one of those things, like, the first time through, I didn't really notice how dark the themes were in this show.
Oh, no?
No.
No, I remember that just as well as I watched it the first time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's because I was just so drawn into the show when this was first out.
Yeah, I think part of my problem was the first time I watched it through, I was so drawn in that I just binged like the first 4 seasons. Right? I think I might have binged the first 3 seasons actually, and didn't really take in those subplots that you see throughout the entire show. Do you have a favorite quirk? You guys have a favorite quirk that isn't? If it's from your favorite character, cool. Like they're all awesome. But do you guys have a favorite quirk specifically? It could be a villain or it could be a hero.
I should have thought about this. Oddly enough, like my favorite superpower hasn't been used yet.
Okay.
My favorite superpower is teleporting. And through the 5 seasons that are out at this moment, I don't think a single person can teleport. I don't think we've seen that yet.
I think you're right. But of the first 3 seasons, do you guys have a favorite quirk? Tyler, is yours going to be Eraserhead's quirk?
I'm not really sure. Like, I love, like, his character development and his quirk, but I don't know if it's my overall favorite.
Okay.
I might go, like, a little bit of dark with Shigaraki's with the decay.
Okay, yep.
Just the fact that all it takes is just all 5 fingers to touch. Whatever you touch is just done.
Yep.
And the fact, like, I might get my seasons mixed up, but, like, when he had Deku in the mall.
Yep. Yeah, that was
all he had to do.
2.
Yep, that was 2.
Yeah, all he had to do was just keep one finger off, and it at the same time it's a tease.
Yep.
And like a threat, but it's probably one of my favorite ones for at least 1 through 3 that we've seen.
Yep.
And now that you've brought up Shigaraki, I know who I'd want.
Okay.
All for One, the bad guy.
That's kind of cheating because that's all of
It's
you.
literally
everything.
Yeah, it is 100% cheating because, of course, he can just absorb everybody.
Yep.
Actually,
we do have a teleportation. It is the mask guy. So give me 1 second, and
Kurogiri.
Yeah, Kurogiri. He can teleport. Technically, he can teleport because he can go from one location to another.
He's
the
a
warp gate.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
a warp gate.
Okay, warp gate. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much there. I mean, that's something that he can open up next to him, and then him and other people can go out the side.
Yep.
I guess when I just think of teleportation, I just think of Nightcrawler. You know, just
Nightcrawler
poof,
or
poof.
In Dragon Ball Z where the instant transmission.
Yep, that too.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess warp gate would be the next best thing that we could think of.
Okay.
If All for One is cheating,
I'd say a little bit.
it's definitely cheating.
100% cheating. So while you're thinking about it, can I say who I think or I thought would be your favorite?
Okay, I'm kind of leaning towards one. What do you think it is?
Tokoyami.
Oh, Shadow, Dark
Yeah.
Shadow.
I
I
figured,
didn't even think about him, but he is pretty freaking sweet.
I thought because kind of that Spawn-ish resemblance to him.
Especially in season 3 when he starts to cooperate with him.
Yeah, where
Yeah,
you,
that's definitely where he becomes way more useful in the series. Yeah, that's awesome, but I do kind of want to go with Shoto's, at least his ice half.
Okay, well, if you're picking Shoto, you get everything. So you get all of it.
Okay. Yeah, if I were to be anybody in the entire series, I mean, of course, I would love to be Midoriya too, but I think I would want to go Shoto. Half
Okay.
ice, half fire.
So
What
I
you
think.
meant?
So I had to do like a little bit of research because I know the provisional license was at the very end of 3.
Yep.
And you touched on it for a little bit, and then it dragged into 4.
Yep.
So my runner up. I don't know where I'd place him over Shigaraki, but Yorarashi with his wind.
Oh, yep.
Just his ability to control wind probably is one of my favorites.
Wait, the whirlwind guy?
Yeah, the whirlwind guy from the
Inasa
other
From
school.
Shiketsu High.
Yep. From the second best, the one that wants to like rival Shoto
Yep.
because he hates his dad. Okay, yeah.
I couldn't remember if he was in 3 or if he was only in 4. I had to do a little quick research.
Yeah, I guess you went ahead and overdid your watching, and we're covering seasons 1 through 3, and you got to jump into 4 right away.
Hey man, it was taunting me. It continued, and I know my favorite fight was in 4, so I had to rewatch it again.
Yep. But we're talking 1 through 3.
Yep.
Matt, you got a favorite quirk?
I'm gonna go All Might.
Nah, see, that would be the next cheating in line.
I found his his description of his quirk to be hilarious because he's like, you remember that guy that at the pool and he just kind of puffs out his chest? That's my quirk, and then he deflates. I thought it was hilarious, and then he's like, oh yeah, I'm only 500 pounds.
Only.
And yeah, I like his just super strength, super speed, and all those things which everybody who's listening, they've probably watched later seasons of My Hero. They know what happens to Izuku later on. So I'm not talking about All for One. I'm literally just talking about All Might's how he uses his own powers.
Okay, I guess that's a little bit more fair.
And you get to see so much in this. His fight with All for One was awesome, and it was really good. Man, there were so many unique quirks in this. That's one thing I love about this show is that they didn't kind of just have your run-of-the-mill quirks, because, I mean, they had naval laser, and then...
Yeah, so many random-ass quirks.
Well, like Koda being able to talk to animals.
Yeah, that was awesome.
It's not something that you would expect.
Especially at, like, a top-notch hero kind of expectation. Like, how is something so weird gonna turn out to be something that a top-notch hero, one of the best schools, and one of our main characters...
And you got to see it at the end of the provisional license, like how useful his quirk can be as long as he's using it to its fullest abilities.
And then you just got random ones again, like Mineta, just sticky balls.
Yep.
That's all it is. Just sticky balls, but somehow he makes it work.
Yep. And like Jiru, I thought
Earjack?
Yep, I thought hers was really cool. And then how they played off of it, where it's like, oh yeah, I play basically every instrument known to man.
Yeah, just because she just loves music in general at that point.
It was so awesome.
So I got it's like a random kind of like question because like speaking of like All Might's ability, like its quirk. So technically in the show, they defined it as its power storage. So is there a limit to eventually it could just die out?
I'm gonna say no. I don't think there's a limit, much like is opposite, one for, or all for one. All Might's power, one for all, transfers everything that current person has and learned from his predecessors or whatever.
The
Predecessors, which was a D in there. And then literally everything is transferred to the next person. So
it's pretty much like power storage, but you don't lose the power, you gain it. So it's because I know it was mixed with All for One's brothers,
right? It
Quirk, which was Quirk transfer,
yep,
which is why he's able to pass it. But
right, yeah, he gave him like the next best Quirk, which is like kind of the opposite. Like instead of,
I'm assuming it's you pass it to like if you gave it to Bakugou, when he passed it on, his Quirk would also go with it. That's the power or the power storage. It stores their power from the previous user.
I think that's kind of how they were trying to explain how it works. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, and the original person who got one for all, they talk about how he didn't even know he had a quirk until he got that quirk from All for One, and then he was like, oh man, I can actually make use of what he gave me. So I thought that was really good. It was kind of clever, and it was a good way to make it seem realistic as far as the transferring of the quirks and the stacking of everything.
right. So I want to say, as All for One can absorb many quirks quickly, One for All over a long period of time can absorb different quirks and give someone like every ability as the generations go on, essentially.
One thing I will say is they will essentially go into it.
Yeah, because I wrote it down somewhere. At this point, Midoriya is number like 8 or 9, 7, 8, 9 in the line right now.
I think he's 9.
He's 8.
Because
I remember during the UA festival that there were 7 shadows, and All Might was the 7th. So I'm pretty sure he's the 8th one in line.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure you're right, and it'll be really cool.
Yeah, I got it written down somewhere, but I got fucking 63 episodes worth of notes right here. I got way too much written down right now.
Oh, I've got a lot of notes too.
Yeah, so I'm not even gonna try to reread to go back. Whatever. There's a certain amount, yes. Seasons 1 through 3, we don't get to know about the previous user's abilities. Obviously, we don't get to figure out that he gets Dark Whip or whatever until season 5.
Black Whip, I think that's what it's called. Yeah.
So that's when we get to figure out that he gets to start tapping into.
Because I know like All Might dropped hints on it that the powers are there, but he never really specified like you're going to be able to use them. He just said that their power is there with you.
Right.
Yeah,
which is weird because All Might's never been able to tap into it.
Again, they'll go into it.
Okay.
They will.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I guess it's been a minute.
Yeah, even if I wanted to talk about it, I don't remember a whole lot from season 5 to even know what they even say about it.
But just to kind of go back into this, do you guys have a favorite villain?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I got 2.
All right, Lance, give us one.
Oh, let me go last because I can give just more to talk about.
Okay. Tyler, why don't you give us one?
I would probably have to say my favorite villain, because of his quirk decay, would probably be Shigaraki. And just kind of like what he stands for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It also kind of fits in, like my second one would probably be Stain. Because I like Shigaraki and like just the whole hand thing. I don't know why, it's just weird, but I love how it's just like his mask is like a hand, is like a glove. Yep. But I also love what Stain stands for, to where like false heroes claiming that they're heroes yet have done nothing.
Yep.
To be able to claim that hero title.
Yep.
So it's a toss up between the two.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. It's the 2, seasons 1 through 3. There's I guess Stain was only really part of 2, but 1 and 3 is Shigaraki, unless you want to throw in All for One, which was, he's kind of like he's like the main boss, but he's like just going to be a quiet boss.
Yeah, and it was that, I will say, a lot of things Stain had to say was really kind of thought-provoking. It was really good. But we can talk about that when we talk about season 1.
2.
Season 2, excuse me.
Yeah. Matt, you got a favorite villain?
I'm going to go with Twice.
He was one of my 2. Okay. I'm glad you chose at least one of them.
So I think you got to kind of see like something super fucked up at the end of season 3, where he's kind of going through that monologue where he's talking about what happened to him. And it's like, if you really think about it, it's super fucked up, because it's like, are you who you think you are, or are you a clone of yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And that's such a mind fuck.
Yep. And I think they did such a great job breaking all that down in that second to last episode in season 3. Just giving the backstory about Twice. For our viewers, if you didn't pick up, Twice is the guy from the League of Villains who can duplicate himself as many times as he wants.
Well, he can duplicate anybody, because we find
too.
out that he duplicates Dobby.
Mm-hmm.
And he can do the same thing, just duplicate people. So he can just duplicate anything, any person is probably the best way to say it.
Yeah, Twice is pretty damn amazing.
Yeah.
I know one thing that with his ability that kind of sucks is we know his ability in 1 through 3, but he explains it in 4.
Yeah.
So it's
a little bit more. Yeah.
He goes in depth on what he needs to be able to use it.
Yes, but just you get to see him using his ability and just seeing it, and then seeing the background of him. It was instant. Like, yes, he's going to be my favorite for the first 3.
Yep. For myself, as you know, Twice, exactly the reason, all that we already said. Twice is amazing.
Yep.
My other favorite one is going to be Dobby.
Okay.
He's kind of got that darker sense to him, like that emo, I'm going to fuck you up kind of deal. And he's got this amazing, overpowering blue flame. Mm-hmm. You know, kind of like a Zula or something like that going on. Just, I want to see more. And this morning I just saw a teaser for season 6 with Dobby coming back in. Apparently he's gonna be making a bigger scene, so I'm excited to see that too. So I was just excited to see that overall. So yeah, I choose Dobby as my favorite villain.
Okay.
For seasons 1 through 3.
Yep.
Well, maybe overall. Because now that I think about it, like I was gonna say
overall
overall.
mine changes a little bit.
Okay.
But that's season 4. Let's not get
for 1 through 3.
Yep.
Yeah, let's not get too carried away.
Yeah, no, it's 1 through 3. I think Toga's ability is kind of cool. She's super fucked up, but I think her ability is cool. And
she's definitely cool. And I like she's got this crazy, like, weird sex appeal about how weird she is. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, let's leave it at that.
I think Compress, his ability was really cool. And then he played off that magician-esque to him.
Oh, that guy that turned the guys into marbles.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he was really cool. But now let's kind of get back into just talking about all our seasons. And let's start with season 1. What was your biggest takeaway for season 1?
I would say the biggest takeaway from season 1 is let's get to the main concept, and that's Midoriya getting his quirk.
Yep.
And training every single day at the beach just so that he can have somewhat of a physical body to start maintaining this new unknown power that he has yet to even unlock, because through I don't know what, half of season 1 he hasn't even touched his quirk. So yeah, he just need to train his body to even withstand it at all.
So for our listeners, to kind of just remind them where season 1 ends, it's after the attack of the USJ. So that kind of gives people a timeline. So it's obviously the beginning, and then the attack of USJ is season 1.
Oh yeah, good point. And the USJ is when the first Nomu appears.
Yep, that's that joint training area, and that's the first time you see the League of Villains as well. So
yeah, it's only 13 episodes long. It's the shortest season out of all of them.
Yep.
But a lot of information is dropped because there's just so much to learn.
Yep.
So yeah, that's what we're dealing with. And yeah, so I say the biggest takeaway is, I think, the starting of the training process, how much he needs to understand that he needs to his body is a limp noodle and he needs to strengthen it.
Yep.
What about you, Tyler?
I would say it's probably about the same. Just the fact that he needs to learn how to be able to control his power, and throughout, I think in a season 2 is where I think it's either season 2 or season 3 where he starts to tap into being able to somewhat control it.
I think those two were.
I think it's about middle of 2, but like just being able to all of season 1 trying to use his power, but he ends up just destroying his body because he has zero control over it, because it's either 100% or nothing.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say all or nothing.
And it's just trying to control it.
Yeah, and it was a lot of build up. It was a lot of introductions to people. It was super cool to see All Might in action to begin with, and then the comedic part where in his puffed up form, and then he kind of deflates into what his true form is.
Right.
And Izuku is kind of like, "What? You're not him?" and just kind of freaks out about him. And I mean, for me, as far as something I took away from it, I think it was one of the biggest takeaways was after Izuku finishes cleaning up the beach. I think that was my most memorable part of the season 1 because it was just all that emotion you had, and All Might brings he references that part later on, and it was just, you saw what hard work and dedication brings.
Right.
Especially since that just goes to show, like, how Deku's an overachiever. He wants to do what he needs to do and then more, because All Might wanted just a section of the beach cleared, and he cleaned everything.
Yep.
He got everything done, especially in the same timeline that he wanted just partial of it clean.
And you another way you see him being an overachiever is just he's studying the superheroes, and he's got his notebooks. Even on Bakugou, he's got notes taken on him. And it was funny to see in the beginning that one random person calls Izuku, what is it, like a hero nerd or something like that, because he knows exactly who that one hero is, the hero that has all the branches and stuff. I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Yeah,
Kamui
every time
Woods.
Kamui
Woods?
No, that isn't right. Every time I wrote down him, I always wrote down branch dude.
You're talking about the guy in the very beginning, right?
No, the one that
it's Kamui Woods.
Yeah,
it is.
Is it?
Yeah,
Yes.
with this lacquer prison in the beginning where he tries to capture the villain, and then Mount Lady basically just barges in.
Oh, wait, I thought you were talking about the guy that can branch his arms and his eyes and his mouth.
Oh, no. That's one of his classmates.
Oh, you're talking about the actual plant guy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We're talking about two different kind of branches.
You're thinking of Shoji.
Yeah.
And I'm talking
Pro hero.
the pro hero.
Okay.
It's I want to say it's in the first episode.
I think you meet him right away in the first episode.
And then, because in the manga, it's like you're a hero okatu or something like that is what the guy calls them. So basically just saying, like, you're all about heroes.
Oh.
And it was funny to see. I liked you got to see kind of the arcing of Izuku. One thing I will say about Izuku, especially in the first probably 2 seasons, is that he's super whiny and annoying.
Oh, yes. Very whiny.
That's the one thing that the first time I actually watched it through almost deterred me from watching it. It was just because it was so annoying to follow him, because he was always crying about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then just his character development from 2 to 3 brings you back in, because he gains that confidence.
Yep. And he learns how to not destroy his arms by not using them. Crazy concept.
Before we get, because we're starting to branch off from season 1, let's continue with season 1.
Yep.
So there's really only 2 more things left to talk about season 1, and that's during everyone was teamed up and they had to
Training
capture the flag, kind of.
The training event.
The training event.
Heroes,
And
villains, mock.
yeah, it was like the
event.
mock thing. I mean, we can give our listeners like a quick run up of like who teamed up with who. I think I wrote everyone. Yeah, I wrote just about everybody. Yeah, I wrote everybody down.
I think that's a little too much information.
Yeah, too much information.
Because I think out of all that, really the only one fight that matters is
Bakugou versus Midoriya. Yeah.
Yep.
And how that one worked out, Deku was teamed up with Uraraka, and it was Bakugou and Ida.
Yep.
And they were the ones acting as villains. Bakugou and Ida were the ones acting as villains. So this was where we got to see where we can see our 2 main characters, the rivalry, come out and have their first like real fight. And this is where we get to see Deku taking his skills of watching Bakugou fight. He always starts with a right hook, he says.
Yep.
And he called it out. He caught it. He countered, fucked him up. And this is, Midoriya is learning how to fight defensively, and he's just kicking Bakugou's ass. Bakugou's losing his mind. It's very funny, but it's very good, action. Mm-hmm. And, in the end, Midoriya ends up winning this mock battle without destroying his entire body. I mean, what he does is
He destroyed
he
his arm.
does lose an arm.
Just an arm,
He uses the use of his arm, but he wins this mock battle, and this is where Bakugou truly starts hating him, is because now he's officially lost.
Yeah, that's true. And it's the first time that Bakugou kind of gets that feeling that Izuku is looking down on him.
Yep. And
the fact that he thinks like he betrayed him, hiding this quirk the entire time growing up.
Yep.
And then just beating him at everything that he can.
Yep.
But I know in that fight also, this is where Bakugou gets a little bit of a reality check, and it also goes to show how smart of a fighter he is. because Deku pointed out, you always start with the right hook. And every fight after that never leads with the right hook anymore. He always changes it because he took that one L in that fight by getting dodged and used it against everybody who knows he starts with the right hook.
Yep.
And they still fall for it.
Yep. Because now he realized he needs to be more of a wild card after being pointed his own flaw.
And it's also where Deku learns mobility is watching when Bakugou was able to flip over him and use his hands to be able to propel himself.
Yep.
Deku uses that later in the season to be able to maneuver himself around. I actually think it's straying away. I think that's season 2 where he starts using that with his when he learns his feet movement.
Yep.
Yeah, he calls that full cowling.
For full cowling, yeah.
Shoot style.
Yep.
Oh, shoot style is season 3, but full cowling is when he starts to
harness 5%.
Exactly.
No.
Which is funny. I wrote down in my notes. I wanted to make sure we talked about this full cowling 5%. Like just the term full cowling is only 5%. I just think it's ironic. He should have chose maybe a slightly weaker term.
Cowling.
Some of the time, all of the time.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say about that.
One thing that I really like about Bakugou is that he acts like a jackass, but he does everything he absolutely can to back up everything he says. He's not one of those people that just is all bark and no bite, but he's also super, super smart because he's number 2 in the class or 3? 2 or 3?
I wrote down a lot of notes, but I didn't write down the ranking.
I think he's under Midoriya. I think he's 5?
No. I want to say it's Momo.
Yep, she was definitely one.
And then I think...
Or no, Deku is 2, isn't he?
No.
Or is he... I know he's either 2 or 4.
I think he's 5, actually.
Is he 5?
He might be 5. But he's... and then the only other person that's potentially above him is going to be Shoto. So I want to say it's Yaoyorozu, Shoto, and then Bakugou.
Maybe. I think I remember 10 being Purple Rush.
Yeah.
Because he was like being like, oh yeah, I'm smart. All the girls want me. But like,
he was like 18. So I actually looked it up real quick. Yes, it's Momo, then Bakugou, but then it actually goes Todoroki and then Midoriya. So Midoriya is 4.
Okay. And I just kind of, since we're talking about rankings, then you got Ayama last. And he's like, everything's all good.
Which one's Ayama?
He's the naval laser.
Oh, the French dude. Okay.
The fake French dude.
The fake French, yeah, they made a point of that.
And so that was something that's really cool is because typically you get these guys that are they're kind of a jackass, but they're not really all that smart. And he is 100% not dumb. It's a terrible sentence, but he's super smart.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. There was something I know. So one thing that I wanted to talk about, especially because this is the first time you get to see him. What do you guys think the principal is?
Like a mouse dog?
I think he was like a hamster.
That's kind of my point. Like, what the fuck is he? Is he a mouse? Is he a dog? Is he, well, I guess in Tyler's case, a hamster?
Yeah, he's kind of almost like Brian from Family Guy.
Brian from Family Guy messes with like Stuart Little from Growing Up.
Yeah. Like, I think I want to take the rodent aspect away from him just because I don't think he has whiskers.
He does not have whiskers. And yeah, it's just, he is hilarious in the first few seasons. He's just so way out in left field. Yeah, I think it's funny. But that was really, like, the first time I saw him, I'm like, what is that thing?
Yep. Yeah, he's definitely weird. And plus, I don't think we ever see a tail or anything of the sorts either.
He has a tail.
He does?
Yep, he has a tail. You see a tail.
Okay. Yeah, I guess obviously I didn't pay enough attention then.
Yeah, yeah. Was there anything else really from season 1?
Unless we want to talk about the final fight.
I think the only thing I would put in that happened before that battle training is when they were doing the comprehensive testing.
Yep.
To get into the school?
No, they were in there and they were trying to figure out their quirks, and Mr. Aizawa had everybody throw the ball, figure out how far they could throw it with their quirk.
Yeah.
And then Deku's like, all right, this is the only one that I can do. Went to go launch it at full power, and Mr. Aizawa erases his quirk to stop him from shattering his arm because he knows he's going to do it.
Yep.
But Deku took that as a learning moment and was able to transfer all the power into his finger, and that's the first time you've seen him be able to control
something into a
single point instead of it being a whole limb.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
I think that really is the only other thing out of season 1 other than just kind of you get to see how aggressive Shoto can be when he literally froze the entire building. Nobody can move because he knew both of them were barefoot and weren't going to tear up their feet to
Back in that
get
mock
free.
battle.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Otherwise, we got the very end of the season 1 where we get to the introduction of the League of Villains while they're all training under the supervision of the pro heroes. And this is where we get to see the first Nomu.
Yep.
And it's basically Shigaraki,
Oh, yep.
an army of dumbasses.
Just D-rank hero or villains.
And I mean, the takeaway of that is we get to see some actual battles going on. Everyone gets to attack, but then we get to see Nomu, the first Nomu versus All Might.
Yep.
And I know this is eventually going to be a future question, but this fight with Nomu versus All Might is kind of tied for one of my favorite fight scenes of the entire series because we get to see, I don't know, I feel like All Might almost went out more physically with this Nomu than he did with All for One.
Yes, because he said he brought out like 300 punches or something like that.
Exactly, yeah, that's what I wrote down.
So that was super awesome to see, just kind of him going plus ultra, as he loves to say, or as everybody loves to say.
At least the school.
Yep. And honestly, yeah, I'd agree. That was probably my favorite fight. There was, especially in season 1, there really wasn't too much going on. Other than that, maybe like the Deku and Bakugou fight. Like there wasn't really too many fights that happened.
No, not too much.
Because in the training event, they do Shoto and his team, and then Bakugou versus Deku, but everybody else they kind of just skip through. Like they kind of just show quick glimpses of.
Yeah, some things here and there.
Yep. And Tyler, to go back to the training / aptitude test, you can almost call it. It was kind of cool because you got to see everybody's, to start off, you got to see everybody's powers, their quirks.
Yeah, we were able to actually kind of get a glimpse of everybody, what they can do going into season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I'm thinking about it, how the fuck did Invisible Girl do anything good in any of those tests?
To be honest, during like some of that aptitude test in the beginning, I don't even think you actually saw her in anything. I think it focused on like your main like
ability people,
7 people who you kind of like follow through most of the seasons. Like it touches base with everybody, but it followed a lot of like Todoroki and Bakugou and then Uraraka. Like it followed like the main people who stayed close. But other than that, like you didn't see Koda do anything.
Yeah, right.
Like you didn't see a lot of the people in the class actually do anything.
So just kind of get back. It's way past, but I'm going to say it anyway. So is that a joke because she's invisible?
Maybe.
Oh, you didn't see her? She's running around naked. No.
Yeah, you're right. You really didn't get to see too many people up to this point doing all that many things. I know the training event, the hero training event, I should probably talk about it that way. The hero training event with All Might, you kind of get to see people's quirks a little bit more. Yeah, because you don't know what, like Tokiyami, you have no idea what his quirk is up to that point. Mm-hmm. If I had to guess, she was a recommendation just to kind of make it so that she could be in the class without having to take the entrance exam.
Yeah, maybe. Because, like, I know we just got done watching it, and we watched it again for a second time like that. Like, I don't even remember much of Invisible Girl in season 1.
If I remember correctly, at the end of season 3, when they're going into the provisionary license, they do a flashback of everybody that was brought in by recommendations because they had their own separate entrance exam that they had to do.
Yep.
And she wasn't there.
Okay, good point. Yeah, because we saw in season 3 Shoto and Whirlwind had their own.
Yeah, because it was a flashback, and that's where he ended up not liking Shoto because of Endeavor.
Right. Maybe there could have been, different.
I mean, she could have been there. You just might not have seen her.
You might not have seen her, exactly.
I'm trying to look into it, and there is nothing that talks about how she even got into.
She's just there.
She's just there.
I think she probably got in
in
just due to the fact that being permanently invisible. Like, it's not something you can turn on and off. It helps with stealth and all that. So, I mean, she probably got in easy, but
Well,
they're kind of limited to what you can and can't do.
one thing I will say against that is they talk about Shinso's ability is he can't do anything against robots because they can't speak back. So he's automatically going to fail that entrance exam.
And for our listeners, Shinzo was the one that faced Midoriya in season 2.
Yep.
With the fighting. He's the one with the purple hair that could essentially mind control if they were to answer a question.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's the scene where we get to see where we'll talk about when we get to season 2. I'm sorry, before we get too much further, we were just talking about Invisible Girl. I have one topic I want to bring up on Invisible Girl.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna say it now before we it becomes irrelevant. Do you guys think we'll ever get to see her quirk turned off and we get to see what she actually looks like, even if it is for like a minute?
I don't think so, because I think if she could turn it on or off, that would have been something that probably would have been revealed.
I mean, I don't want to go that far. I mean, like, because I know me and Matt have talked in the past, like, Aizawa can't turn Invisible Girl's quirk off. That's totally cool, but, like, what if in the future someone can
Like, what
reverse
if she lost
it?
her quirk?
Or even that.
I mean, we see somebody with the ability to essentially reverse quirks, because the girl with the horn, Eri, that's essentially her ability, is to reverse things. But that's that's way in the future. Just to kind of go with your question,
Like, what if All For One stole her power? Would she turn into a regular human and then boom, she's just some girl?
he won't want her power.
He won't want it. I mean, maybe he could. It could be
it would help
stealth.
with sneaking up behind somebody and just punching them.
But I mean, just in general, like, what if someone had the ability to temporarily take away all of your quirk, and then we could just see Invisible Girl walking around like a normal girl?
Like, I could see, like, some funny thing happening, like in season 6, where Racerhead goes to cancel somebody's quirk, and she walks in front, hits her, and she just see her real quick.
Well,
I think that one's been explained. I don't think the Aizawa path works.
But if the Aizawa can't, I don't think anybody else's can, because
okay. Here's the deal.
Because
he cancels.
stops. It blocks quirks from becoming.
Yes,
it's like something like with their cells, it like blocks it.
Okay, so Aizawa can stop a quirk from being used. She is in a permanent state
So it's
that
like
she has. She has no control over it whatsoever. Now, if she were to suddenly become quirkless, then I think that can be the only explanation that can happen.
Would she become essentially non-see-through, or would she just die if she became quirkless?
Right? Yeah, because it could branch off. It could, it could take a weird route.
Embedded into their like body the quirk is, I guess.
Yeah.
Especially being permanently invisible.
So all I can say is trying to put this in a way that won't really ruin anything.
Oh, do you know something?
I do know something.
Oh no.
Well,
Reading
possibilities. I am.
Did you read ahead, or is this from?
Oh, this is from like chapter 300 and.
He reading.
Okay, yeah, Matt's up to date with everything.
We'll just say.
Do I get an answer?
Yes, you will find out. That's as far as I'll say.
We might find out like season 7 or 8, but
sure.
We'll find out.
No,
because I know like it's weird because like it could be like chapter 200 in the manga, but it could be like 4 or 5 in the anime. Like it's
so
they can jump. Yeah,
I will say I'm going to go over this again, but we're on chapter 125.
Seasons 1 through 3.
1 through 3 is 125 chapters. Season 6, all I can say is maybe. I don't know. I don't remember how season 5 ends, so I can't give you a reference point and tell you, yep, that's going to happen in season 6, or you'll know in season 7. So unfortunately,
it's
can't
around that area.
Yeah.
Okay.
You potentially might know what happens.
Okay. Well, I guess that's fun enough to know that soon enough we can learn.
Back on the track a little bit.
Yep.
Me personally, one thing I was kind of disappointed in with season 1 was 13.
They called it him. So.
Okay, so his ability with Black Hole, the fact that it's like the most ultimate ability, he's more of a rescue hero than anything, but the fact that it's Black Hole is also a very good defensive or aggressive quirk if used in that manner.
Right.
And was shut down super simple in USJ.
I bought it because, our Warp Gate guy literally, he he
can
essentially
move
casted
super
counter.
pretty much.
And he just opened up one gate that allowed... He opened up two gates that allowed 13 to suck up himself.
And
So like, I get it if you want to play with, those magics.
Yeah, I guess like I get it, yeah, but
and 13 talks about being specifically for rescue. So if anything were to happen to 13 as far as a fight is concerned, he's not going to know what to do because that's just not what he does. He's just there to rescue people.
and I think that's why he ended up playing more defensive and protecting the students instead of trying to help out with anything.
But I was going to say, I mean, if you want to go to the extreme that I think you were going to go, like black hole, like with, a real life black hole being, the big fuck you to the universe, like, yeah, as soon as 13 opens up this black hole, like, boom,
You would
everyone's
think anything
dead.
in the general path, which is kind of just done.
Yeah.
I guess it's not going to be as strong as you would think it would be. I guess it does have to be limited, otherwise it's just too strong.
Otherwise, I was going to say, we might as well just rename 13's move from black hole to, like,
Vacuum.
Inuyasha's
Wind
whole
tunnel.
wind tunnel deal. Because it's essentially the same deal.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing I will say is you get to see how awesome Aizawa is. Just kind of murking everybody.
Ooh,
Just
yeah, especially
constantly
when he's
bouncing his
over-teamed.
quirk between everybody and nobody knows who it's on.
Yep.
And he's just
Yeah.
fighting.
Because he's got that badass Cyclops glasses on so that nobody can see where his pupils are looking so that he can fuck with whoever he wants to fuck with. Yeah, I thought that was an awesome character design. Great writing on that portion. I thought that was perfect.
Yeah, it was really nice to see because you don't really think of erasing people's quirks as something you could do super offensively.
Mm-hmm.
And through hard work and a lot of training, you find out that, hey, just because your quirk isn't necessarily meant to do something offensive like All for One or Bakugou's where it's just super in your face, that doesn't mean you can't be a good hero.
Right.
It's kind of like foreshadowing a little bit into the later season, and I think 3, like when you meet Lemillion.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, because if something were to go unplanned, you at least need to have a backup of basic fighting standards, which is where you just said Lemillion. What's his actual name?
Togata.
Toga. No, Toga's the girl. Sorry, Togata.
Togata.
Where we see Togata, the guy who can permeate, which is what it was called. Yeah, where he can go through walls, or he can go through the ground, or whatever. You need to learn how to actually fight.
Yep.
Quirkless, essentially, in addition to fighting with your quirk, just in case something shitty happens.
Yeah, because in his sense, he loses everything when he uses his quirk. So
Yeah,
he had to adapt to that.
Let's talk about that when we get to season 3.
Yeah, good point. Okay, is there much left to talk about season 1?
That's kind of everything I have as far as season 1's concerned.
Matt or Tyler?
I think the other thing I have with season 1 is just Nomu and All Might, and when he learned that it was power absorption, he just kept punching it until he couldn't absorb anymore.
Right.
It just basically hit his limit. And the fact that it took 300 punches, insane.
Yep. Yeah, I thought that was super awesome.
Yep. And then I guess the only thing I could tap on top of that was for all of our listeners who already are up to date, episode 13 is where Shigaraki is talking, through this computer deal, calling Master, which we learned that Master is All for One. And he's also talking to Doctor, that we also learn who Doctor is in like season 5.
Oh, that's the only other thing I wanted to talk about. Did you guys notice the Doctor?
I just picked up on his name. I know who he is in the future, but I didn't.
I don't really care about the name, but did you notice who the Doctor was? So you see, Lance, you had brought it up. It's the Doctor that is helping All for One.
Yeah, I think so. Wait, okay, I might be throwing myself off at this moment. I just know who the future is, and I got his face in my mind right now. So
yeah, it's the Doctor that Izuku saw to tell him he did not have a quirk. Is the same Doctor you see helping All for One.
Yeah, I'm sorry, son.
Okay, so it's more like during the day he's a good guy, during the night he does his own little personal stuff.
In a sense, I guess.
in a way.
But yeah, now that you bring that up, yeah, he's such a main character later in the series, and he was just nonchalantly sprinkled in the very beginning.
And a flashback of all things.
Yeah, it's just kind of crazy to be like, especially because, we're caught up and it's just like, oh, fuck, I know who that guy is.
Wow.
And it's just a quick, 2-second glimpse. No, it's a little bit longer than that because he talks. But it's just super quick talking about the doctor.
Yeah.
Or it's just the doctor talking and you get to see him and it's just like, oh, man, that's crazy.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The same doctor who's going to be a big pain in the ass in season 6 and 7. In the future episodes, is the same person who told you you're going to be Quirkless.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah, I kind of want to talk about it just because we're at this point, but just seeing young Izuku and kind of like bawling his eyes out, like, especially now that I have a child, like, could you imagine telling your child, it's like, hey, the one thing you want to do in life, no matter how much you want it, you can't do it. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh man, that sucks. That really sucks.
No, yeah, that sucks. I could not imagine.
But yeah, that's everything I got for season 1.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm good.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back to talk about season 2.
Welcome back. Now we're going to touch into season 2, which starts in with the UA Sports Festival. And it goes into the Stain arc, into the final exams arc, which is the students in pairs of 2 versus heroes. And then it touches base on the last episode with Shigaraki and Deku encounter at the mall.
Yeah, there's so much that happens in this season. It's crazy. Like, we were just kind of talking over it, and we're like, oh, fuck, that happened? That happened in season 2? Oh, man, that's right.
So much.
And Stain's like the big storyline on the League of Villains on why they have so many people was following him. And I almost forgot that even happened in season
Exactly.
2.
I was going to say, like, Stain is, to me...
It's probably one of the bigger
season 2
points.
is, like, the biggest takeaway is Stain. But then at the same time, Stain was only, like, what,
4
maybe...
episodes.
Yeah.
I think from start to finish.
Yeah, it was only a small half... I mean, Stain himself was only, like, a couple episodes, but, like... His influence was probably like a third of the episodes.
Yeah, his influence, honestly, even in season 3, his influence is bringing people into the League of Villains because they think that his viewpoints or his beliefs are what the League of Villains are. He was a part of the League of Villains, supposedly, and that is why they have so many people. So it are getting all these people wanting to be a part of the League of Villains. And yeah, just kind of forgot about him. I want to touch base on him later. I really want to start with the sports festival because this is where you really got to see everybody's quirks.
Yep. And I kind of want to just throw in real quick. This is a tournament session, and this brings back the Yu Yu Hakusho vibes. And
all the tournaments.
Fucking love this because this is one-on-one fights. Everyone fights each other. I love the sports festival.
So, I want to say something about the very start of the sports festival. So if you have
go
before we get into it.
Go
so one thing that I noticed after rewatching it, because watching it the first time, you don't really pay attention to Shinso until his 1v1 fights.
Okay.
But, very first challenge is the obstacle course. You notice Shinso literally getting carried by zombie-eyed students, but you never pay attention to it because you didn't know what his quirk was. You just thought that it was his class carrying him.
Right. Yep,
so
exactly.
there was something seeing that I was like, I did not catch that before. And so you get a little bit of a taste of his quirk in the process without even realizing it.
Exactly.
Shinso is which character?
The mind control. If you
the mind control guy. Okay, yep. Yeah, it was. I want to touch base with him, but once we actually start talking about the fights, I really want to go into him.
Before we get too far, I have a laughy cry face that I wrote down where most of my laughy cry faces come from Bakugou, and he's calling all of his other classmates extras.
That's one thing I love about Bakugou is like all of his nicknames. Like he's got like Sparky and Icy Hot, and just the random. I think most of the time I laughed was his witty, stupid comebacks and nicknames that he has for people.
He's always yelling it and so much anger, and it's always
it was great because they had him talk, and I'm just like, oh man, what's gonna happen now? And he's like, I'm gonna beat everybody, and it was funny because everybody got all pissed off, and then
nonchalantly too, I'm gonna beat everyone. Just
when he got up to the
world.
opening
ceremony.
opening ceremony, yeah.
And Izuku's like, man, if he was being his normal self, he would have said something way more beyond just, I'm going to beat everybody.
Yeah.
So,
Real quick before we talk about any fights, Aizawa was one of the, what's another word for a talker?
Announcers.
Aizawa was one of the announcers behind the scenes for all of this stuff.
Yep.
And we see he's bandaged up like crazy.
Yep.
And he's bandaged up because at the end of season 1, he gets the shit beat out of him.
By Nomu.
Nomu and all the villains and stuff like that. Now, the anime clearly stated that 2 weeks had gone by since that event. And I'm just wondering, 2 weeks has gone by. We have a super awesome kissy nurse that makes everybody feel so much better. And his whole entire body is still bandaged up. Like, was he fucked up that bad?
Well,
yeah.
Or like,
you also got to remember that Shigaraki decayed his entire elbow. And when Deku messed up his arm too bad, she even said there's nothing she can do. She can't heal it. It's too far damaged. And I have a feeling that's why he was bandaged, is because Shigaraki's decay damaged him too much.
a little bit, but I mean, his face was even bandaged up.
True, but that Nomu also took on All Might like it was nothing.
Yeah, it like probably just crushed his face by slamming it into the ground.
Sure.
So, yeah, it was probably just like, hey, we're going to heal you up, but like, you're only going to get part of your face healed up. You're going to get part of your elbow healed up. And then you're going to run out of stamina. And you're just going to have to do that every day for weeks.
Yeah.
Probably just constant treatments, because he probably didn't have stamina to begin with, just from how exhausted he was from the fight. Because he probably had to activate his quirk,
100 times.
100, 200
Yeah, exactly.
times in that fight alone.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I just wanted to say that was one thing that threw me off. It's been 2 weeks and he was still in full body bandages.
And it was hilarious. Like every time he talked and just did his super like kind of emo-ish talking in the bandages, it was so funny.
Yeah.
And it was really funny because you find out later that President Mike and Eraserhead are friends. So their interactions with each other I thought was even more funny because they act like they hate it. Well, Aizawa acts like he hates President Mike, but you come to find out that they're like best friends.
Right, because they were friends back when they were in school.
Yep. Oh, that's one thing we didn't talk. Oh, no, because that happens. Does that happen in season 2 where they come up with their
names? Yes.
Their names. And you find out how Eraserhead gets his name.
Yeah, just because President Mike was just like, here, skibbity bob. And then, yeah, sure. That's
You're
my
Eraserhead now. And that was his name. And yeah, it was so funny. So it's like, well, you got to be very serious about your names because it might be with you forever.
Exactly.
But
all right.
To go back to the sports festival.
All right, so the sports festival starts out with a basic race. Like they start out from like point A and they gotta get to point B. They got like robots to get through, and they got a minefield at the end to blow through.
The super long tightrope they got to cross.
Tightrope, yeah.
The canyon.
The
with
canyon.
The rock steps.
Yeah, that one was kind of overlooked.
It was just quick, brief, and then everybody kind of just jumped.
Yeah, it was just these weird obstacles. It really focused on in the very beginning that they had to fight through the robots that they saw in season 1.
Yep.
And then in the very end where there was that minefield where everyone had to tiptoe around hidden mines.
One thing that I thought was awesome is all of those robots were the 0-point robots that everybody kind of like backed off from even trying to attack because they didn't think they were strong enough. And all of them can take them down without really trying all that hard.
Not all of them, because I know when it showed Shoto and he froze them all off balance, they were all zeros. But then when it flashed back to Deku, when he was trying to get through, there was 1s, 2s, and 0s in there.
Okay.
There was a mixture when it panned to Deku and he was trying to get through.
Oh, I guess I missed that.
Oh, yeah, I guess I was really focusing on the zeros because that's where
because it showed Shoto and then just you have 2 zeros just standing there and everybody struggled and ran, not even a month ago from them.
Right.
And now they have no problem dealing with them.
Right. Oh, and for listeners, zeros were the big-ass robots. They're zeros because they counted towards 0 points towards the season 1 deal to get into the school, but they were also the super strong ones that they were supposed to run away from anyway because they were supposed to leave those for like the real heroes.
Yeah.
So yeah, in this new
in the sports festival, there were obstacles that you either had to beat or to get around somehow. I also thought it was really cool because you got to see all of Class 1A learning basically how to work around Shoto's abilities because they had worked in an area and seen his abilities at work. Mm-hmm. So it was really cool because pretty much everybody in Class 1A knew how to work around Shoto's ability.
Right. For the most part, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like with was it Ojiro with Tail?
Yep, Ojiro.
He learned as soon as he froze, not on the ground anymore after the battle of the buildings. He's not freezing his feet anymore.
Yep.
And then I think the only other way to talk about this race is how it ended.
Yep.
We got Deku, Midoriya grabbing a bunch of metal pieces, slowly gathering up a bunch of mines so that he can have one massive explosion. He can defend himself with those metal plates so he can blast himself through the minefield and take first place beyond Bakugou and Shoto, who were battling neck and neck. And then, boom, here comes Midoriya stealing first place out of nowhere.
Well, remember, he had to create another explosion by whacking the ground with the shield he was using in order to propel himself again beyond Bakugou and Todoroki.
Yeah, he just had to set off a mine.
Well, it's the second one because he
was going to land early, and then he literally took it, slammed it on the ground, which hit Shoto and Bakugou and sent him flying.
Right, yep. Which allowed him to recover and run.
Yep.
Okay, yes. The second hit.
Yeah, I thought that was super clever. It was really smart. You get to see how strategic Izuku is. It was really good to see because really up to this point, all you ever knew was he either kind of went in without thinking against that slime monster, or he did things because he just studied everybody, so he was really good at creating a counter move against those attacks. Mm-hmm. But here you can see him thinking on his feet and doing things without having to study his surroundings to be able to do it.
Right.
So speaking of the slime monster, first time I ever watched it, I thought I was watching the wrong thing because he's taking his tentacles and shoving it down his mouth. I was like, wrong show. I rewatched that and I died laughing again.
I was going to say, I'm going to pin this one for later.
Watching you again tonight.
All right, so yeah, that officially ended the race, and then part 2 of the school deal was essentially, this was another kind of capture the flag where everyone had
Cavalry Battle.
Yep.
Yeah, they all had points on their bandanas that they all had to hold.
Yep.
And because Midoriya was the one who finished in first place, he was the one that had the biggest point bandana, and everybody had to, target. They just had to go for points. And of course, Midoriya was target number 1 because he
had a million points, and then the next closest person
265, or 315, I think.
Yeah, but it was like 3,015, so it was a million, and then 3,000 was the difference between 1 and 2.
Yeah. So yeah, whoever held on to the number 1 spot is guaranteed to be the next number 1 spot. But of course, you're the biggest target at that point.
But I really liked it because they're like, hey, when you're the number 1 hero, you are going to be the target from everybody. Mm-hmm. So I liked how they were able to kind of
make it a life lesson within the challenge.
Yeah, exactly. And just make it more realistic for what they were trying to go to. It was really good. I really liked it. And then one thing is midnight. Like, my wife came in. She's like, what the fuck is she wearing? I'm like, I don't know.
Well, the BDSM or whatever.
Yeah, but it was like BDSM and reverse BDSM at the same time because she was a masochist, but she was...
Masochist, that's the real word, yeah.
But then she wanted to be bound up, and you're just like, what? That doesn't make any sense. But it was really funny and her ability.
Just how sexualized she is, yeah.
Yeah. At least she's an adult, so it's not too.
Damn it! I almost spit on my beer right there. Yes, at least she is an adult. Oh, that makes sense.
Watching that gave me like weird Hunter x Hunter vibes with Hisoka
and young Yon or
Gon.
Sorry, It's been a minute.
But to get back to the cavalry battle, it was really cool. It was nice to see because like Izuku wanted to have Ida on his team, and Ida said no because he knew that this was going to be a battle against not just Izuku but everybody, and if he wanted to push forward, he couldn't keep relying on Izuku.
Exactly.
Which you come to find out that Uraraka learns that as well later on. So it's good to see that everybody is acting that way.
Yeah, and plus it gives a great excuse for the other 20 fucking characters in Class 1A to, shine a little bit of light so that we can learn more about them. Yeah. So it's great writing.
Yep. This is the first time you get to see, like, Shoji's abilities at work.
Yep. I was going to kind of mention that their plan that they had, that Mineta came off with the top of his head to just kind of cover him, and it worked. Yeah. Who was their fourth? Or was it just them three? Because I know it was. I think it was Sue, Mineta, and Shoji, but all the other teams were in 4.
Was it Jiro?
Oh, I don't even remember.
I don't remember.
I just remember Branch Dude protecting him, Sue grabbing him, and Mineta was the one that came up with the plan, and he could stick him if he wanted to. But
yeah, I don't remember if they had a third.
That's one of my favorite plans.
Was it Koda?
No, he was too big to be in there. I could have swore it was just Shoji outside.
Ashido? I think it was Ashido. No, because she was on Bakugou's team, because she says that the only reason why she was on Bakugou wanted her was to kind of counteract Todoroki's ice or something along those lines. No, I think it was Toru. No, because she wasn't. I'm trying to go from like the one-on-one battles, and I'm trying to like backtrack to figure out who it is. You know what? I have no idea.
I don't know. I'm not even gonna continue thinking.
We're terrible people, I guess.
But it's all right. I mean, it has nothing to do with it's not that important.
Yep.
The point is, you needed to come up with as many bandages as possible.
The top 4
I know, I said bandages. That's weird.
The top 14 point totals.
Yep.
Advanced onto the next group of a part of the tournament.
Yeah, and it was cool. We got to see a lot of combination of quirks. It was awesome. Yep. Everybody did a great job. Bakugou had his team working out real well.
Yep.
Todoroki's team was working out real well. We saw Class 2B. 2B, is that the
1B?
1B. There we go. Thank you. Like they had some good shit going on.
Yep.
And of course, our main character Deku, he's coming up with some great plans. So much awesome shit's going on, and everything comes down neck to neck.
And then you find out Hatsume. So she was the support specialist student.
Oh, the mechanical girl?
Yeah, the mechanical girl that... I'm trying to remember. Her quirk was like zoom or something like that. She could see super far away, which had absolutely nothing to do with her passion, which I thought was funny.
Yep.
And...
yeah, good point. She has a passion for creation, but her quirk is just so that she can see super close. I mean, maybe if she's working on her toys, she can zoom in super close.
Can't she zoom into like, what is it, 2 miles?
Several miles.
It was something miles. I mean, zoom in, you can see
kilometers.
Yeah, it would be kilometers.
Get it right. This is Japan.
Oh, sorry.
Everywhere, but yeah, she could see from super far away. Yeah, I don't know.
It was an X amount of distance.
Yeah,
5 kilometers. There we go. And you get some kind of comedic relief because she kept getting super close to like kind of rubbing up on Izuku, trying to figure out how she could help him. Had absolutely nothing to do with any like
sexual business.
Yeah, but then of course Uraraka's getting all jealous and flustered because you can see she likes him.
Yep.
And
yeah, so that happened. We don't have to really spend too much more time. The teams who pass is first place is Todoroki, second place is Bakugou, third place is team. What did we say that 1B?
Shinso.
Yep. Shinso team.
Yep.
And team 4 is Deku.
Shinso's not even 1B because he's a general education student.
Yep. Yeah, he's a gen ed student.
Oh.
He is attempting, by winning the tournament, to become a hero.
In the hero course.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
He would just replace whatever class he knocks out.
Yeah, right. some student from whatever.
1A or 1B.
Yeah.
Right. So after this bandana stealing test is the final test, the good test, the good test, where we actually get to see some real fighting action, the actual tournament style stuff, and that's where everyone fights everybody. Yep. And round number 1 is Midoriya versus Shinso.
Yep.
which is the guy who, once again, if you answer one of his questions correctly, he can take over your mind. And he was about to make Midoriya walk out of bounds.
Yep.
And just before Midoriya walks out of bounds, all of a sudden he sees visions of his predecessors or whatever.
Predecessors.
God, why
Still
can't I put
a
that fucking D in there? Predecessors. In the tunnel. And he can see all of the previous one for all. God, I was confused. One for all users. And for a quick second, he's able to, like, I don't know, what did he say? Flick his finger and all of a sudden, boom, he blew up a little bit of the stadium and he was able to regain consciousness a little bit.
Yep.
And that's how he was able to fight back.
Yep.
So that was really cool. Shit ton of information dropped kind of in that moment because we got to see that this the dude he's fighting is a badass. We got to see Midoriya's past guys. Like, there's something that's real, and then we need, that obviously opens up a shit ton of questions. And then we also have to see that, Midoriya needs to win this fight.
One thing I will say is his ability to look at the previous one-for-all users will be important.
Exactly. And they do kind of tap on that a little bit.
I think at the end of 4, beginning of 5, somewhere in there.
Yeah, that's where... Well, season 5 is where we
start
start to see it.
Yeah, you first see it.
Yeah.
But we learn that All Might hasn't even tapped into any of that. Which is my biggest question is, like, why did it skip All Might?
I think it had everything to do with All Might's ability to use one for all right away.
That I can see that.
So you didn't have that journey to learn it, where Deku's learning it and getting all the help through it.
Right. And so we didn't see All Might struggle with anything. So we didn't need him to tap into anything deep inside him for, like, I don't know. He was never on the edge. I mean, of course he was on the edge when he was fighting one for one, but he was always relying on his, just pure strength at that point. Like, but we see Midoriya, he's super tactical. So maybe he's thinking outside the box more often than All Might does.
Well, he makes a joke because Izuku's like, well, what did you need? It's in the first season. What did you need to do to be able to use all for one right away? Or one for all, excuse me.
Yes, that's very easy to confuse him too.
And he's like, well, I don't know. I got it and I was able to use it right away. I thought it was funny. But it was just one of those things where All Might had absolutely no problems using one for all the moment he got the ability.
Right.
So,
which is strange. He has such a scrawny ass body too.
Yes, which is because he didn't have a quirk at the time, but I guess it was just one of those things where his body was more meant to work well with the ability he was using. Because he was, I mean, even when he's in his like small form, or when you see him in the past, he is bigger than everybody else.
Taller.
Yeah, so it's just probably one of those things where his body is just more apt to sustain the ability right away.
Sure.
And maybe he's just more apt, I'm trying to think. He's just better suited to use a strength quirk than what Deku is, who is smaller than a lot of people even in his class. Or the same size as a lot of people in his class, but he's small.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can buy that.
It'd be really interesting to see what goes on from there. I really enjoyed the fight with Shinso and Deku. What about you? Did you take anything away from this, Tyler?
From the Shinso fight, just kind of like when President Mike and Eraserhead were talking, he knew he wasn't going to make it in the hero course. That's why he applied for Gen Ed at the same time, because he doesn't have the capabilities of hand-to-hand fighting or anything. He knew it ahead of time. So he's not, I wouldn't necessarily say stupid, but he knows his weaknesses.
Yeah, he was realistic enough to know where his downfall was, and he knew what the entrance exam was going to
involve.
Yeah, so he knew he was going to essentially fail it as far as the practical side of it was concerned. So it was really cool. And of course, from later seasons, you get to see him again. So that's super awesome because I really liked his quirk. I think it can be super useful. So we're not just talking about every individual fight. Do we have Lantz, do you have a favorite battle in the one-on-one?
I do have them all written down, so let me just take 30 seconds to go through them all. We have the green-haired girl versus Kaminari, which was basically vines versus electricity. The second year, or the team 1B wins that one. We have Ida versus the support girl,
Which is funny.
Because the support girl gave Ida a leg up, and Ida ends up the support girl ends up winning.
No, she gives up.
She wins that specific fight, but she ends up giving up her position
I
because
wouldn't necessarily say she wins. She just toys with them to use her.
I mean, she did officially win.
No, she lost.
She never did. She never let him walk out of bounds.
Good point.
Yes.
She was about to win, and she's like, no, like, all I want to do is showcase my talents, and that's all that turned out to be.
Yep.
And then we have Ashio, the acid girl, versus Belly Laser. That was just whatever battle. We have Tokiyama versus Momo. We have Sue versus Kirishima. We have Ochako versus Bakugou, and this is where things really start to kick off. So we got, the love combo versus Bakugou, and this is where we because we got to see
Sue should have been in there. They never made it. That was
Sorry.
Tetsu.
Tetsu. Yeah, I wrote Susu.
His name makes me laugh. It's Tetsu.
Yeah, it's just 4 Tetsus. Yeah, it was metal versus rock. Yeah. So they ended up in a draw, and then
they had an arm wrestling,
and then a couple episodes. I think I wrote down the notes a couple episodes later. But just to continue with the fights, we had Ochako versus Bakugou, and this is where things start to get a little bit more personal. Because we find Ochako wants to fight for her family. She wants to make money so that she can help them. Bakugou, he's just Bakugou. He wants to fight. It sounds like it should be a very one-sided battle, but Ochako fights back very well. She plays defense very well. She's got a great, concept that she wants to play through on her own. She figured it out on her own. But in the end, Bakugou does end up pulling through, which was, just fine. And then we have
Izuku versus Todoroki. And then you have...
which was an awesome battle. This is where we got to see all those finger flips.
It's hands down 1 through 3 is my favorite fight, is Shoto versus Deku.
Oh, yeah? Out of all of the seasons, this battle right here?
Yep, because Deku was able to get something out of Shoto that nobody has been able to.
Yep. He touched down emotionally. The action was awesome. We got to see Shoto's ice blast coming at Midoriya at full blast, and he was able to do like a finger flip, Togoro style finger flip, and then blow everything away, no problem. But of course, Midoriya was limited in how many finger flips he can do because he's going 100% on his body.
Yep.
I mean, he even rebroke his finger twice.
That was the crazy part. Never expected that when the first time years ago when I first watched him, like, damn, he broke a broken bone.
Just obliterated his finger.
And the funny part about that was you can see that finger was just even darker discoloration than the rest of his broken ass fingers. So I thought that was good writing, or not writing, but good animation. Thank you.
Yeah, it was, and then it was super fucked up. But they also bring up the fact that he's relying on Recovery Girl to heal him
very much
through his injuries, which is, I mean, I can imagine people doing that all the time. It's like, hey, if you knew, no matter how far you push something and how broken you were, if you would get healed, how far would you go? And I feel like, depending on what it was, a lot of people are going to do exactly what Deku did, which was just go way beyond what you should have done.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have the Tokiyami and Bakugou fight, which was super one-sided, and he talks about it, and he's like, hey, I'm basically your worst enemy, or I'm your biggest weakness when it comes to fighting. Again,
I don't remember exactly what fight Tokiyami was in, where it wasn't even a fight. He talked to, before the chariot battle, when he talked to his team, they said light makes him weaker, and it makes him less. And then Bakugou, again, with how smart he is, was able to literally deduce that just by doing close blasts and realize he could not do as much.
I think that was an accident, though.
He did say, like, I realized that you could not fight back as much when I'm hitting you with close blasts, and then he just ran with it. Yep. It was on accident that it happened, but he learned once he saw it, That's why he kept doing close attacks to be able to weaken him even more to where it wasn't a threat for defense.
The instant he attacked and Tokiyama's Dark Shadow kind of retracted a little bit, he knew that he would be against him. He said that he only talked to Shinso about it, the arm guy, and Shoji, sorry, and that was the only person he had spoken to prior to
his team.
Yeah, prior to the cavalry battle.
Okay.
And so you have those two fights, and then you have the Bakugou versus Todoroki fight.
Oh, so just
I think I skipped a
You did
series.
back up. All right, so episode 24, we have Ida versus Green Hair.
Yep.
And then we have Tokoyami versus Ashido.
Yep.
And then we have Bakugou versus Kirishima.
Okay, yep.
So Ida wins, Tokoyami wins, and Bakugou wins. And then episode is where we get introduced to the hero killer, Stain.
Yep. And that's who he injures Ida's brother.
Yep. And then after Stain gets introduced, we have Ida versus Todoroki. Todoroki ends up winning. And then we have Bakugou versus Tokoyami.
Yep.
And then Bakugou ends up winning. And then the final fight is Bakugou versus Todoroki.
Yep.
And then, do you guys want to talk about that before we talk about how that ends?
Yeah, we can. I will say I really liked this. It probably had one of my favorite moves probably one of my favorite moves of the 3 seasons, and that was the Howitzer Impact from Bakugou.
Is that the one where he spins in a
he does that
circle?
That explosion tornado.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That's so cool.
Yep.
And it was out of all 3 seasons, this is the first and only time you see it.
Mm-hmm.
You just came out of it out of nowhere. You never saw any glimpse of it before. You want to know, is this something that he's done before you just haven't seen, or is this just something he's like, let's try it and see if it works?
It's probably something along those lines.
I feel like Bakugou would just be like, fuck it, I'm going to go all out. Let's do something different nobody's ever seen before.
Yeah, he's 0 to 60 in every battle.
Oh, yeah. Shit, I would say 0 to 100 in every battle.
Yeah.
They're just full sends.
Was all out. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. We got to learn a little bit earlier that Midoriya taught Shoto to, use his fire as his own ability. It doesn't necessarily have to be his father's ability. So, claim it as your own. Mm-hmm. And then this is where... Wait, actually, he doesn't use fire against Bakugou, does he?
Nope.
No. And then because he doesn't use fire...
He charges it to start using it, and then he lets it die out when he's about to hit him with the howitzer attack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Endeavor basically was like, show the world what I made you for a reason.
Exactly.
And then all of his desire goes away because he kind of realizes that he's doing exactly what his dad or Endeavor wants him to do.
Yep.
And any desire that he has to cut off his dad regrows to what it was previously to his Izuku fight.
Mm-hmm. So then Bakugou ends up winning because Shoto ends up holding back, essentially.
I think he would have won anyway.
Oh, maybe. Because Bakugou he's pretty damn powerful. Especially at that moment.
Yep.
Shoto was worn out a little bit.
Shoto was worn out, and I feel like Bakugou's explosion is enough to get through his ice. And then, fire isn't going to do as much against Bakugou as it would against normal people because he can kind of just explode the fire in a different direction.
Sure.
So...
even if you want to get a little bit scientific with this, the heat from Shoto's fire might only add to Bakugou's sweat, make him sweat even more, make him more powerful. You can go in so many directions with any of this.
Yeah, and so I don't think his ice would have been enough to go against Bakugou.
Right.
Especially at this point, Todoroki is a very strategic fighter, but Bakugou is still a step above him when it comes to fighting. Or at least I think so.
Right.
So, what about you? You guys think so or no?
I'm on board.
Okay.
So obviously Bakugou ends up winning.
Yep. And that's hilarious, but we can get to after.
It's hilarious because he's chained down. He's not happy with the way he won.
Yep.
We find out that Ida's brother is attacked by Stain. He's in the hospital. Ingenium.
It's not Pokemon.
So Ida's starting to get himself into a dark place because now all he can think about is getting revenge for his brother.
Yep.
Before any of this happens, the students need to pick out hero names.
Well, I want to go back to the sports festival first.
Oh, we're not okay. You want to finish more with that?
Yeah, because I asked your favorite battle, and I don't think we ever actually talked about them.
Oh, I mean, for me, it's the final one.
Okay.
Bakugou versus Shoto.
Okay.
So much explosive activity going on.
Yep.
And just the fact that you had how many heroes try to jump in and stop him. You and Cemento's put up what, like maybe 10 walls?
No, that was
Deku.
That was Deku and Todoroki.
Oh yeah. I'm talking about the whole wrong fight.
Yeah, you're thinking about your favorite fight.
Sorry.
So now that we're talking about it, Tyler, tell us about yours.
It would definitely be the Todoroki and Deku fight. It's just the fact that you had Cementos put up how many walls?
Basically cement from between Deku and Todoroki.
And they were still able to completely blast. Well, Todoroki didn't go anywhere because of his ice.
Yep.
But if his ice wasn't there, they both would have been full sent to the other wall behind them. And just
so
the
much
fact,
power.
and it's also explainable with Todoroki never using his fire. So I don't think he has control over it. So it's kind of like in a way like with Deku, it's 100 or 0.
Mm-hmm.
I also think because he was so emotionally out of control, or he had zero ability to control himself. Because you realize that a lot of his ability is tied into his emotions, just like Deku. So if he is going full out with no limitations, yeah, you get that.
In this fight, just Deku pulling out Shoto's everything to be able to get him to use his fire and telling him like it's his quirk, it's not his dad's. You make it what you want it to be is also what started their deeper friendship.
Yep.
Because before that they weren't really close, and then after that he was the first person to be able to touch down into Shoto's soul that far to be able to get him to use something he said he would never use ever.
Yeah, one thing I really liked about this fight was you see that Izuku cares more about the individual than the win, which is one thing that you could complain about Bakugou, is that Bakugou cares more about winning than anything else, which is kind of almost the same as All Might and Endeavor. Like if you really want to think about it, where Bakugou is a lot more like Endeavor, while Izuku is like All Might. And it's just kind of crazy to see, but it was really cool to see how far Izuku was willing to push himself and just to get Todoroki to start breaking down those walls.
Yep.
So, but as far as I'm concerned, yeah, I would go with the Izuku versus Todoroki fight would be my favorite. I did actually enjoy the Tokiyami and Bakugou fight only because you get to see more of Bakugou being strategic and being able to learn from just microseconds of information.
Mm-hmm.
So, and to be a little bit different. So Lance, I know you want to talk about Stain, so let's get into Stain.
Yeah, so Stain was introduced in episode 24, maybe a tad bit earlier, but according to my notes, I wrote down 24 because he doesn't officially kill at that moment, but he injures Ida's brother.
Yep.
So this is where the internship deal happens, and all of our Class 1A guys branch off and go to other heroes so they can learn how to hero from professionals. We have Ida going to the city where his brother was injured very specifically. Doesn't matter. He didn't give two shits about who the hero was. He just wanted to go after Stain. And then we have Midoriya going for Gran Torino because he helped train All Might. And then we have Bakugou going for Best Genist.
Yep.
Why exactly did he go for Best Genist?
He went for Best Genist because Best Genist was one who...
He was a top...
because he was number 4.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason Bakugou went for him. But Best Genist went for Bakugou to reform him and correct his attitude.
Yeah, there was that too. Really didn't do too much.
So just because we're talking about that, so you see at the end after the internship that Bakugou's hair stays in that order. So do you think he styles his hair all spiky, or is it naturally that way?
I know, like how they said in the show is like, it trained itself that way, and then somebody pissed them off, and then it instantly puffed back up and went.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So-
which is why I'm like, so which one is it then?
So
I have a feeling
he
deep
totally-
down he secretly liked it. He just didn't want to show anybody that side.
A little bit of that, yeah. Rewind just a quick little bit. Episode 26 is where they started talking about giving everybody their own nicknames, their own hero names.
Oh yeah, the hero names. Yes, yes.
So everyone eventually got their name, minus Ida. This is not where Ida chose his name to be Ingenium, but
So it's 3 characters that don't have hero names right now.
like an official basis. Oh,
Yes.
I suppose
It's
Bakugou doesn't. Ida
Bakugo,
doesn't.
Ida, and Shoto, they both.
No,
Ida-
Shoto does officially decide to keep his name as his hero name.
Okay, so different names as hero names.
Oh, that's
Yeah, it'd be
okay.
those 3 because Ida and Shoto go with Ida and Shoto, and Bakugo is just too aggressive.
Too aggressive.
Just a constant death and murder.
Yeah, so
King.
I got it written down. Bakugo decides to go with King Explosion Murder or Lord Explosion Murder. And both of them were immediately shut down. But the way he fucking yells it out is just obviously just carries on why he is such a favorite character.
Yes, exactly. It was so funny but I mean, it was even better because Midnight immediately rejected the idea of it being either of those things.
Right.
So like for Aoyama, it was like the sparkly hero, and then he goes on and like the King of Twinkle, not the King of Twinkle. Oh man, it was something really stupid and it was super long. This is so terrible. I am sorry, people. I can't stop twinkling. Is that his name, or is it?
I think it
or-
is.
I think
Now that you
that
say
is
it-
what he wrote down and what
Yeah.
it would be.
So that was my question. My question is: so is he the shining hero, or is his hero name Can't Stop Twinkling?
I think it's first name Shiny Hero.
I don't know. I don't remember Can't Stop Twinkling ever being denied or anything.
No, I think she says it's like that's fantastic or something, and then just moved on.
Right?
Yeah, because he was the first one after. Oh man, was it after Bakugou? I think Bakugou.
First time he got rejected.
Yeah, I think Bakugou immediately was like, King Explosion Murder, no. And then Aoyama goes and says he's the shining hero. I can't stop twinkling. And Midnight's like, yeah, that's a great name. And everybody's like, what are our names supposed to be then? Because I have no idea what's going on.
Oh, Yama's over here writing sentences as for his name.
Yeah, right. All right, so that was all just for fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it needed to get done so everyone had their official name, so it was all for good and fun. But the main point was that the next thing in line is actual Stain, where we actually get into the meat and potatoes of Stain.
Yep.
And what's going on is Stain eventually hunts down like this, Mr. Native or
Yeah,
Native
I think it's
something.
just native.
Native?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was just native.
So he's hunting him down, and then Ida ends up finding him, and then Ida challenges him.
Yep.
And then Ida's they're in an alley, they're fighting. Ida eventually gets slashed, and we get to learn Stain's ability, which is basically ingesting someone else's blood to immobilize them.
Yep.
And then out of nowhere, we get to see a more experienced Deku zipping through this alleyway and saves Ida. And then this is because we learned that Deku has learned to only use 5% of his power at all times through Gran Torino.
Yeah, because of the heating up of the
pump,
pastries.
like the pastry.
Yeah, he's got to envision a microwave at this point.
Well, he was trying to envision an egg in a microwave.
Yep.
And then the pastry, he tries putting all the pastries in at once and they don't get warm. So then he realizes like, hey, I only need to put so much of, in quotations, a pastry in order to be able to actually heat up or use his quirk. It's one way to do it, I guess.
I mean, whatever makes it work, man. Use
Yeah.
it.
It's like Gran Torino said. He's like, "You're gonna be happy with that reasoning and why you figured it out." Pastry, it is.
Yep. So Midoriya comes and saves Ida, and now we have Midoriya versus Stain.
Yep.
And then Deku realizes that he cannot win this battle, So he sends out an SOS on his phone.
Yeah, he sends out his location. I think his entire class.
Right.
Well, he sends that SOS as soon as he gets to
Yeah.
I
the
think he
fight with
kicks off
Stain.
Stain, and then he sends it
At the very beginning,
without Stain noticing.
Right.
Yep. So it wasn't it probably was like, hey, I'm in way over my head, and this is Stain who's killed people.
Right.
So
Yeah, so I got too far ahead. So yeah, the only one to respond to this SOS was Shoto.
yep.
He ends up showing up, so now we have Deku and Shoto versus Stain.
Yep.
We have Ida on the ground, we have Native on the ground, and then they all fight.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So then you learn that Stain's ability doesn't last as long on certain individuals.
Based on their blood type.
Yep. And you see him going from kind of a strategic fighter to
He was getting very desperate.
He was
Because he was
definitely
trying to
starting
end a fight against 3 people who could keep up
Yep.
before heroes actually got there.
Yeah.
Yep. So he starts going basically batshit crazy and going all out. And it's really cool to see. I thought this was a great battle because you see how basically fighting experience can help you even against people using strong quirks.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like it feels super important, but the idea behind Stain was more important than Stain the individual.
Right. It was just the concept that he was trying to
It was
prove.
the League of Villains. It was the League of Villains movement that got them bigger.
Yep.
Stain, like you said, Stain himself wasn't the big. It was his ideology is what made everything big.
Mhm.
Yep. And so they have their fight, and then it was kind of crazy to see him essentially, through sheer willpower, kind of freeze everybody up at the end after the fight when he kills that Nomu and then is just giving his speech about how none of the heroes are worthy of anything minus All Might and technically Deku.
Yeah, he threw him in there.
Well, he only threw him in there kind of passively
Mhm.
in the beginning of the fight.
He did acknowledge him though in the alleyway that he was someone worth saving.
Yeah, or worth
But-
not killing anyway.
Exactly, but because he got into it more, he was either kill him or be killed yourself. So I think that was the opening up to the world that Midoriya is worth saving because he's a real hero in Stain's eyes, and that's why the League of Villains got torn a little bit because Shigaraki wanted him dead,
Yep.
but all the followers of Stain's ideology didn't want to touch him.
Yep. And which you do find out in season 3. So we can talk about that a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course you see after everything. Well, so one thing, did Stain die?
Yes, he did officially die in
Yeah, I think
episode 30.
I think he died in the hospital.
Nope. He died in the middle of a speech. He was sitting there yelling out, and then all of a sudden he went blank, and that's because a broken rib pierced his lung.
Well, technically that one
I don't think it killed him. I think it just put him in the hospital and then he went to jail. I don't think it killed him. I think it incapacitated him because he was so exhausted and then...
No, I wrote it down.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, you did write it down, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's true.
He was in the middle of a speech. He was yelling to everybody, and then all of a sudden his eyes went white, and he was done. Maybe he didn't die in that exact moment.
I
But
don't think he died right
in
there.
that exact moment is when they explained that a broken rib pierced his lung, and he was rushed, and they couldn't save him.
Yeah, I think he ended up dying at the hospital or in transport, but
Sure.
I think that is what did him in, though.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll go with,
That was episode 30, if anybody wants to peek into more of that.
I don't know. I don't think he died, but I guess you guys think he did.
The world may never know.
Are you fighting this because you know something more in the future and they lied about this?
I don't think they ever actually said he died.
This is coming from subtitles that I've even read on top of English listening.
So they said he died? Weird. Okay.
Yeah, a broken rib. Yeah.
Anyway, so you have...
Damn it, now I'm thinking too much. You know something. God, I doubt. No, whatever.
It's all good. Don't worry about it. So then you find out that the 3 individuals in the hospital get yelled at by the police chief dog. It was kind of funny.
The students, yeah.
Yeah. You see that Izuku...
Dude, wait. I wrote right there, episode 31, I wrote down a question like, what if Stain never died? Matt, I'm losing my mind right now.
So I just like searched. Did Stain? I can't say anything now because now I know.
You just fucked it up, didn't you?
I know. I don't. All it says is that I can't say it because I don't want to spoil anything for you.
You just did. God damn it.
You ruined it for
Okay,
Lance.
well, the anime in episode 30 says he dies. That's all we can say legitly. Apparently, he doesn't. Thanks. All right. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm glad he comes back because obviously he was too big in season 2.
As far as it said, he's in prison. That's all it says.
Okay.
At least that's all I read.
Anyway, so that just to kind of continue on, it's kind of nice. I don't know if nice is the right way to say it, but you see the students get in trouble because, as we find out in season 3, they don't have provisional licenses. They are not allowed to attack villains, whether it's Stain or anybody else. You are literally meant to be there to observe what's going on. And it's interesting to see the dynamics that are going on between the police and heroes and civilians. Because, I mean, if you're just some random person that doesn't have superpowers or quirks, you would want, that 14, 15-year-old kid to help save you if they had the ability, but they're not allowed to. Or at least the first-year class isn't allowed to, at this point, save anybody or do anything. But
they can save. They just can't use their quirks.
They can't
nor cause harm.
Yeah, they can't attack the villains, and that's what they got in trouble for. Is they use their quirks against an individual. Yeah, you're right. Because if Ida were to have just used his reciprocal burst to save Native and get out of there really quickly, he wouldn't have gotten in trouble.
He would have gotten in trouble for using his quirk in public. Because if you remember when they get to, in season 3, when they get to the forest, they said it's private property, you can use your quirks here. Because they don't have their license, they can only use their quirks in certain places. So he would have gotten in trouble, just not as much for attacking someone. It would have just been for using his quirk in public.
Yeah.
So I think he wouldn't have gotten in trouble if, I think his name was Common, which is a weird name, but that's kind of whatever. It was the mentor that he was under. If Common would have said, hey, go save that person and then come back, he probably would have been okay. But the fact that he went off on his own, you're right, he wouldn't have been okay even if he was just saving somebody and running away. So it was kind of nice to see, but then you also see, hey, the police chief dog still kind of throws me off every time.
Right.
Is thanking those 3 individuals for saving everybody, essentially, and capturing Stain. So it was just kind of nice to see that, hey, even though you did something that is technically against the rules, you were doing it for the right purpose. So then after that, I'm trying to think, that's when they go to the training for the summer training, right?
Yeah, then everybody continues to split off. We get more information on all of our main characters learning under pro heroes.
Okay. And I mean, there was the biggest takeaway I took from that was that all that experience that they learned didn't help them as far as their quirks are concerned. Because Bakugou raises his ability, in quotations, to throw the softball, I think is what it was.
You're jumping ahead.
That's
season 3.
Oh, that is season 3.
They're in the woods for that.
Okay, so what happens after this?
I think they're working on their ultimate abilities.
Oh.
That's season 3.
That's season 3. No, it's the final exams.
Yeah, it's the final exams.
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure if they were working on their ultimate ability before the finals or if it was in season 3.
No, that was for the provisional licenses.
Provisionals.
Right.
Yep.
As far as the rest of the one-on-ones go, half of them were bullshit. Some people did learn one-on-one combat. We see Asui learn with the seal guy how to be more in turn. That was a good thing. Bakugou learned bullshit.
Yep.
We learned Uraraka learned how to do combat with knife training that we got to see in the foreshadowing for a future episode.
Yep.
So it was kind of like a hit or miss kind of thing. It was important and it wasn't important. Shit was learned, but it wasn't
it touched base on the character or the heroes that needed to show what they're learning, because Uraraka was more of a support rescue type, but she learned that combat and self-defense, which in turn comes into use later in the seasons.
Yep. So I wouldn't really go too much into that. The entrance exams, basically all the entrance exams where you're going to pin two people that aren't really suited for each other against a teacher hero that is also a weakness to the two individuals that are in the team or the pairing.
Final exams.
Yeah, for the final exam. Do you guys have a favorite one of those?
I mean, it's going to be the one that they honestly touched on the most, which is just going to be Deku and Bakugou. Just putting them, they only put them together just because they can't work together, and it's forcing them to work together to be able to pass.
Against All Might.
Against All Might, who they both look up to.
Yes, and
they didn't get along, and in the end, of course, they figure out something to make it work out. But yeah, I mean, sorry, I was going to cut you off, man.
But no, basically, Bakugou gets knocked out, and Deku saves him by landing a punch onto All Might and kind of like shocks him enough to grab Bakugou to run away.
Right. Because
I think it more stunned him because he didn't expect him to come
Yeah.
back.
Yeah,
he
exactly.
expected to just to cross himself and win anyways.
Yep.
for himself.
Mm-hmm.
Because if Bakugou didn't cross, then Bakugou wouldn't have continued.
I think it was one of those things where they could either call him a not winner or call him a winner depending on the situation. Because in the Mineta one,
Sero
Sero
got knocked out right away, so he didn't win. But I think in Bakugou's case, he would have won because of how much of a fight he put up the entire time.
basically
Where Sero just was out instantly.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, because those are two sets of extreme. Because Mineta is the only one that won in that scenario, which made it seem like if Deku were to cross the line without Bakugou, would Deku have been the only one to win? But yeah, of course, he did put in enough work.
Bakugou literally sacrificed himself for Deku to
quote
cross,
unquote get help.
because he was like a sacrificial. I'm gonna go down so you can get out.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, so I can understand that one.
But I mean, outside of that fight, there is no other fights after that. That was the last.
So that was the last
2-1.
one. One thing I wasn't going to touch base with it in the manga mentions section. All of those exams happened at the same time.
Oh, that's
So
very nice.
I thought that was kind of
Simultaneously?
Yeah, I thought
that's a good idea.
They weren't.
No, manga, he's saying.
in the
Oh,
manga.
the manga. Okay.
So
Alright.
they said you had 30 minutes to do it. So that's why in the anime you see some of them watching. Well, no, because Zuko is waiting and watching later on. But according to the manga, that they're all happening at the same time. And then because theirs finishes quickly, he gets to watch the other ones later on.
That makes sense. That makes sense in the manga side of it. I was gonna say because in the anime they're watching and he didn't see a point in talking it over with Bakugou because he ain't gonna want to do anything.
Yeah, and through the series that All Might can really only keep his form for so long. So that's also another thing, is that he can't really
express that to be like, well, we can try to outlast him, because that's something that really I think only the principal and recovery girl know.
Yeah, and I mean it is 3 hours, so depending on how much he's done as far as superheroing is concerned previously in that day, it would also depend on that information. Lance, do you have a favorite one, or is it going to be the Bakugou, Izuku, and All Might one?
Yeah, I'm just going to go with the main character fight.
Okay.
To me, that one was just the one that was... I mean, part of me wants to say the Nature Kid and Earjack versus the Mike.
Present Mike.
Present
Yep.
Mike.
Yeah,
that was
Coda.
that was just cool that there was some super echoey blast kind of thing, and we got to see Coda with his nature ability finally come into play. That's all cool, but it's still not as like action packed as our MCs.
Yep.
I think outside of Deku and Bakugou, it would definitely be Momo and Shoto.
Yeah, that was actually going to be the one I would say. One
Versus Ayazawa.
Yep, versus Ayazawa. Or if I had to pick a different one, might be the Su and Tokiyami versus the
Ectoplasm.
Yep, the ectoplasm. I thought that was really cool because you got to see some abilities of Su that were beyond what we had known already.
With her swallowing the cuffs in her belly and puking them out like a frog can do. Mm-hmm.
And you got to see Dark Shadow beyond just kind of being super
like
close.
A tool.
Yeah. So, and using it as a defensive mechanism instead of an offensive mechanism.
Right.
I I found the ending of the Mineta fight versus Midnight funny because he used her kind of BDSM sadistic masochism-esque qualities against herself.
I almost feel like, I don't even know if it was actually planned or just kind of worked out in the sense that I think he was actually running away and he's like, well, try it, and just tried it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe.
I mean, it worked.
It did work, and it was kind of funny. I thought that the ending fight was funny.
Yeah, and then the other one was Power Loader, which was the pro hero that looked like War Greymon versus Ida and Tail Guy. Yep. And how that one happened was Tail Guy and Ida basically had this stupid fusion thing going on. And then Tail Guy uses his tail whip to make it to the exit, and they end up escaping for a win.
I mean, you did have Kirishima and Soto against Cementas, and you saw the
very first one.
You saw the first loss, and that was them basically being
overexhausting themselves.
Exactly.
Because they were just bullheading it instead of actually like thinking through it.
Yep, exactly.
They were trying to pound straight through instead of trying to figure out a plan.
And Cementas was like, I can do this forever, literally forever, and you will run out of steam eventually.
Yep.
So it was, I thought all the fights had their moments, and I did enjoy the Todoroki and Yaoyorozu one a lot. One of the biggest things was, I mean, you got to kind of see her get out of her shell, and you got to see Todoroki kind of take a step back from just having to be the absolute best and or everything being his way, which up to this point, you hadn't really seen that. So it was great character development for Todoroki. After the entrance exam, they had that short break between the summer break / summer camp thing that was going on and the the final exams. So they have the pseudo pool day, which
normal animes, it's the beach day.
Yeah, normal anime stuff.
But at least this show was at least a little bit more censored in the sense that all of our female students
were wearing their like full one-piece suits,
onesies. So it wasn't like super erotic or anything of the sorts. And we get to see Mineta and Sparky Boy get all sad that can't see any like cleavage or anything of the sorts.
Yeah, they can't be their typical teenage selves. Mm-hmm. And then one thing I did find funny was Aizawa coming in right at the end when they were going to have their last round in the tournament.
Yep.
And was like, nope, it's 5:00, go away.
Yeah, so we don't even get to see a winner. So it was a cheap way to be like, okay, this can get too out of hand. We can have anybody a winner if we really want it to be. So like, let's just stop.
Yep. One thing I will say is that is not canon to the manga.
The whole pool scene?
That whole episode was not. So
of course, I guess I shouldn't be too surprised.
But then
it's like fake fan service.
It really is. And whatever.
Yeah, it was fine.
But then you have the last episode, which is them going to the mall, and you have Shigaraki. Basically, the biggest part of that episode was Shigaraki and the Deku encounter, which Shigaraki is taking the walk to kind of find out what his convictions are.
Yep.
And that's going to be a big one, especially for fans that have watched through and watch season 5, because it's the all villain academia, or the villain academia, I think is what it's called.
Oh yeah, so where it focuses on the villains themselves.
Yep. So you kind of get to see the starting point of Shigaraki and his foundation for what he wants, or his convictions, as I think that's what he called it.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
And that's also where you get to learn like the inside of Shigaraki's quirk.
Yeah.
That's where you learn what causes decay, because before you just thought if he touched you, you get decay, but that's where you learn that all 5 fingers need to be on you for his quirk to activate.
Yep.
And then he just sits there and taunts and teases Deku by constantly getting his finger close the entire time they're talking.
Yep. I wouldn't really say there's too much more to that episode. What about you guys?
That's really the only thing about that episode was just the
just a talk.
Shigaraki encounter. It was only a couple minutes.
Shigaraki just wanted to have a normal conversation with Deku and be like, hey, why are you the way you are? And then this is where Shigaraki gets a new flame set inside of him so that he can once again have the passion
and have a reason
to lead this League of Villains.
Yep.
So that was the purpose of the final episode of season 2. Yep.
So I guess that's all we have to talk about for season 2. So let's take another quick break, and then we'll talk about season 3.
All right, and welcome back. Unfortunately, this is turning into quite a long episode. We had to let Tyler go because it's late at night and, we all have to work in the morning. And so I'm just going to turn this into a part A, part B kind of series. So what you will see, obviously, from our title, that this is episode A, and I'll release episode B the week following. So this will be a closure for episode A. Would like to thank everybody for listening. I hope that you guys can subscribe to us wherever you're listening to us. Please rate us because that's going to help a lot. Also, please go to YouTube and watch our Anime Lounge short flight episodes. At this current season, we are watching Licorice Recoil. It is a fantastic series, a great show.
And we launch that every Monday, just so you know.
Yeah, that's a good thing to point out. That's weekly, and our podcast is bi-weekly, with the exception of this episode. But until then, we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.